About a year ago, I was introduced to True Niagen, a supplement specifically designed to boost a key cellular resource called NAD. That's short for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And I was really impressed with the research that showed that increased NAD levels can promote cellular repair, maintain healthy mitochondria, and increase energy throughout the trillions of cells in our body. I've been taking True Niagen ever since, and I am truly persuaded, which is why I'm so excited to welcome them back to the program. Let's get into how True Niagen works. From age 40 to 60, humans can experience a 50% decline in NAD, leaving our cells with a shortage of that incredibly valuable energy resource. Additionally, things like immune stress, poor diet, even alcohol consumption can all deplete our cell NAD levels. Research suggests that increased NAD can support cellular defense against these physiological stressors. True Niagen is designed to boost NAD levels and is backed by clinical research and regulatory approvals. Now, while the research is still evolving, I am truly impressed by the possibilities surrounding NAD and the research behind True Niagen. And I suggest you check out their information for yourself. To learn more about the research, science, and to order your supply of True Niagen supplement, visit drdrew.com/TrueNiagen and use the code DREW at checkout for a special discount on orders of 3 bottles or more. So that's my website, drdrew.com/TRUNIAGEN, and use the code DREW today.
Hey, everyone. It's a dose of Dr. Drew.
Howdy, guys. I see you're all piling in here. Thank you, Robert. Caitlin? Is that you? Colin? Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin.
Colin E. Stone, first guy on.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yep, Yvonne, I was in Myrtle Beach. It was the day before the lockdown happened. It was actually, I was down there when the travel ban developed. So a lot of strange stuff in the air around us right now. If you hear anything overhead, any weird background noise, a lot of helicopters, and I don't know what that's all about, but maybe our first guest can help me understand what that all is. It is my co-host from the Fox 11 special report that we do every night at 7 o'clock. I know many of you used to watch the Facebook stream when we had the Q&A there. It's 7 p.m. weeknights Pacific. Elex Michaelson, he's also the co-host of the Fox 11 News at 5, 6, 10. So essentially, if you turn on Fox 11, the Fox 11, think Simpsons, Family Guy, from about 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., Elex is on TV. And on Friday night, I hope I get that right. You didn't put it in here, Elex. He's the host and executive producer of something I know he's very proud of, The Issue Is, with Elex Michaelson. Elex, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Drew. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
And so it's Friday night at 10, right? The Issue Is?
Well, so the news is on at 10. Usually the news is an hour, but on Friday nights the news is a half hour, and then the second half hour is The Issue Is. So you can see me anchor the news at 10, and then we have The Issue Is at 10:30.
All right, good.
So yeah, there's a lot going on there. What I'm most excited about with this experience, Dr. Drew, is I get the chance to talk to you every day, but this is the first time I've gotten to talk with your wife.
Oh.
We've messaged, but we've never been on the phone together. So this is a big moment for me.
So Susan, you want to ask Elex any questions? I mean, she is a big fan of yours. She gives me notes every night when I come home, but I don't know if she has any notes for you. Any notes for Elex, Susan?
No, he's a great PR person. He does amazing tweets. I retweet him all the time. I've learned from this experience in the last couple of months because he's also really, really good at batting off trolls. He's very kind, unlike me. And he doesn't just block them like I do. But I like your style, Elex. And I know you work long days, not just 5 to 10 p.m. You probably start around noon, right? And then you just go all day.
Yeah, I mean, I've been calling into the governor's press conference pretty much every day. So that starts at noon every day. And then the day basically starts from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to sleep, which has really been very overwhelming. I mean, it was intense before this started, but the day has gotten longer. And for us, we also added shows. I mean, it's such a great thrill to be able to work with Dr. Drew every day. And we also added a 6 o'clock newscast. So it's a lot. But we couldn't be more grateful to be working. So many people are not. So I'm grateful to have a job. And even if it means long hours, I think it's important what we do right now. And it's been such a privilege, I think, to be able to work with you, Dr. Drew, and to try to do something that I think is really important right now, which is to try to get some straight facts out there. There's been so much hysteria and so much misinformation and so much that has led to a lot of fear and anger. And I think what we've tried to do every night is to try to cut through some of the BS and to tell people what the real story is. And sometimes that story is not as bad as reported, and sometimes the story's pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think if you treat people like adults and give people, the facts, let people react on their own. You don't have to sort of tell them what to think.
And again, I want to talk about what you talked to the governor about today, and I also want to talk about your Jerry Brown interview. But before I do, there's something on my restream here I've got to address that's a clinical thing. Hey, Jeff Barney, your girlfriend either has pelvic inflammatory disease or a bad urinary tract infection, and you need to call a doctor about that. I don't know where you live. There's an organization called HEAL that will actually come to you and would do it right away. I don't know if you have anything else like that in your vicinity. I mean, going into a hospital right now obviously has its own sort of nefarious risks associated with it, unless you live in an area where there is very little COVID risk. But that is something that can get into more serious trouble. She has a fever and nausea and pelvic pain, this kind of thing. So that's kind of a serious thing. So Elex, what did you learn from the governor this morning?
Well, today was a big day for him. So he presented what's called the budget revise, where he presented what the new budget is going to look like. By mandated, he had to sort of change and present a budget today. And he talked about, a $54 billion deficit of what is going to be cut in California. So one of the first things he said is we've had this giant surplus that they've been building up that Jerry Brown prioritized, and then he continued. Right now, it's about a $16 billion surplus. He says, first off, all that should be gone.
Yeah.
So he just said, don't spend it all at one time because it's going to be a multi-year problem. Spend it over 3 years. He is proposing a 10% pay cut for all of the workers in the state, including himself and his whole staff. Mm-hmm. Some of that's going to have to be negotiated with unions to figure out how that goes. He's saying that expenditures for the state should be cut by at least 5%. Things like less cars for the state, less travel, saying essentially we need to have a leaner government. And some of the more ambitious social programs that he wanted to put forward, like healthcare for the undocumented elderly people, which is he wanted to do healthcare for undocumented over 65. He said, look, I like that program. We just can't afford it. So some of that is going to be cut or not go forward. He did try to protect as much as he can certain other programs that he does, believe in. Try to get more funding for education, funding for special education, and try to do funding for infrastructure programs that he thinks might be able to help get us out of some of this mess.
Infrastructure, like a works project, like a sort of Roosevelt style thing.
Right.
That's interesting.
And his big push, of course, is the federal government can make these cuts go away. So the Democrats yesterday, Nancy Pelosi is introducing a $3 trillion spending plan. And Newsom says, look, if the federal government passed this and they gave us that money that Nancy Pelosi is asking for, we wouldn't have to make almost any of these cuts because they could subsidize it based off of the federal spending and most of those programs could stay. But if they don't, and the Republicans haven't really suggested that they will, there could be some incredible cuts coming. He forecasts, this is quite a stunning number, that there could be 24.5% unemployment.
I saw that
in the next year. That's what he's projecting for California. So that means, 1 out of 4 Californians will not be working. That's 10 million Californians.
It's crazy.
So that's pretty extraordinary if you think about it.
And when I look at his plan, he seems very serious about budgetary management. And I would imagine that will play well with the Congress, the federal Congress, and the executive branch, in that he's doing his part. And let's see if they can kind of meet in the middle or something. To me, that seems a very, very smart move. And yesterday he talked about himself as a chess player. It was something. Were you asking? Oh, you were asking him about what he thought about.
He talked about Jerry Brown.
Yeah,
that was actually an old interview. That was from 2018. Gavin Newsom was Jerry Brown's lieutenant governor, of course, for 8 years, and they've had a very complicated relationship over the years, going back to the time when Gavin was born. His father had a sort of friendly relationship with Jerry Brown, and then there was some business stuff, and then it didn't go so well, and then there was some estrangement, and then
Interesting.
Jerry and
I did not
Gavin
know
came
all
in
this.
together,
This is
and then there was a period when
great
Gavin
intrigue.
was lieutenant governor where they weren't talking to each other, and that Gavin Newsom basically said that the whole job of lieutenant governor was kind of worthless, and so it's not like they at times have been close and at times have been very, very not close. I actually found his comments about Gavin to be not very effusive in terms of praise, but that's not really Jerry Brown's style, which is what makes him one of the more interesting people to talk to, because he doesn't do a lot of the political BS that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
He just kind of tells you what he thinks.
Yeah,
But Gavin Newsom described him as a chess player when everybody else is playing checkers.
Right.
His political
and I found that interesting that then you said, well, that's how Newsom sees politics, and that was news to me. That was interesting to me. And so I'm imagining this is his chess move in terms of coming up with his budget, and then hoping that the other side kind of moves towards him in terms of helping him not need to make these draconian cuts.
And to stick with that analogy, most likely part of the reason that Newsom has gone so out of his way to be complimentary of President Trump, and to not bash him every time he's been asked to, and to say a phrase like when he was asked about Trump by me one time where he said, "Promises made, promises kept," which is literally the Trump campaign slogan. And he knew that. Really? And that has been used in a Trump campaign ad. He was used in both a Trump campaign ad and a Joe Biden ad on the same day.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So I think part of his thinking, sort of big picture, is to keep the president happy, to play to his ego, to keep the president feeling like he's a part of that, so that when he does need to ask for money, the president is more willing to do that. And so far, the president has been more willing to listen to Gavin. And Gavin has said that the president has given him everything that he's asked for. The challenge is, and this is what I said to Jerry Brown yesterday, I said, look, Gavin says the president's giving everything he wants. And Jerry Brown's basically suggesting, well, he's not asking for enough.
Right. No matter what, it's no good.
We need to do more, according to Jerry Brown.
Fascinating. One of the things that Elex and I do every night is we answer questions on the television, and there's an interesting question that just came through here on the Restream. Wearing a mask, is it bad to breathe your own CO2 for any length of time? No, these are small molecules that get through the mask. That whole idea of hypercapnia, which is an accumulation of CO2 in your blood, is false. Now, except one caveat. If you have CO2 retaining advanced chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, yes, you will not be able to tolerate a mask. That will be a little difficult for you. But you're home on oxygen anyway, and so you talk to your pulmonologist about that. But everyone else, don't worry about hypercapnia. Unless you're trying to wear a mask when you're running or riding a bike. That's not optimal. That's not optimal physiology. So I do think that if you're not around people, pull the mask down when you're running or outdoors. And, Elex, I found another article. I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I mentioned it to you the other day, but I've got it in front of me right now. This is from The Hill, and the headline on it is Outdoor Transmission of Coronavirus in China. I reviewed this yesterday for this group. I'm just going to bring it to you again because it's one I've mentioned before. 318 outbreaks encompassing 1,200 confirmed cases across 120 cities. 80% of the outbreaks occurred in the home. 34% were associated with a transportation setting. And these all that were indoors resulted in 3 to 5 cases. Out of 318, only one was out of door, and it was a two case, 1-to-1 transmission. Again, suggesting that being out of doors is a better place for us to be if you're practicing proper distancing and all that good stuff. Interesting, right?
And there's an interesting question also coming in on your feed from I guess Rude 310, and I wanted to bring this up tonight with Catherine Barger. This idea of what is the goal here? He's saying if the purpose was to flatten the curve, does it make sense that New York, which is in worse shape, is opening Friday, LA is extending to August? First up, that's maybe not exactly true. LA is extending some aspect of their order, but not entirely in New York. So all that open, closed, I think is way more nuanced than people are getting it.
Well, say that again. Say that, because I think that's really important. Yeah, that open and closed does not exist.
About the flattening of the curve, because so many people, when they heard this, they said, okay, we got to flatten the curve. We got to flatten the curve. We got to make sure that the hospitals aren't overrun. We got to make sure that there isn't, So we've done that. We've flattened the curve. Yeah. A lot of the hospitals are not overrun. The Mercy ship was not overrun. So a lot of people right now are thinking okay, well, what are we doing now?
Yeah. Why are we doing this?
Now it's about finding a cure. Now it's about finding a vaccine. Are we changing the goalposts? Do you feel like the goalposts are moving right now?
Me, I don't. I think I think they are worried that there will be another uncontrolled outbreak, and they're trying to get the number of cases down to the point where they can chase every single case and the contacts. Now, Newsom is ramping up tens of thousands of what he's calling COVID detectives. I am all about this. I think that is the answer. And I'm not hearing other states do quite as much of this as we are. So I think he's got the tiger by the tail there. Right now, we have only in the hospital 2,500 cases, maybe, in the entire state. I'm not quite sure about that number. When we have available 26,000 beds. So the point is, we overshot by a factor. We were so good at getting the curve flattened that it literally was 1/10 or even 1/20th of what we're worried it might have been. So I think, for me, one of the sources of frustration is it flatten the curve or is it reduced deaths? Because if it's reduced deaths, we really did a nice job on that. Because if we had just shot for 26,000 as opposed to 2,000, there would have been a lot more deaths. And if it is really just worrying about overwhelming the hospital system a second time, there should be a middle ground where we don't overshoot by a factor of 10 or 20. Overshooting by a factor of 2 to 5 sounds like a safe buffer to me. And you've heard me many times, and people that watch this stream have heard me say it on this stream, say, maybe if we study really carefully and we really practice cautious mask wearing and social distancing, maybe that's really the target. Maybe that's the target we should be going for if we don't want to not just flatten the curve, but actually eradicate the disease, which is really kind of an unrealistic goal. It's not going away until we have a vaccine. And even then, it's going to be around because people aren't going to take the vaccine. So it's a little more, again, as always, your point is very well taken. It's a little more nuanced than the headlines lead people to believe, or than, by the way, the angry mob takes it. They need to watch it too, because it's, again, we're all watching. It's like we're watching one film and seeing two movies, and that's never a safe place for people to be. We got to bring it together and see the actual film. That's what Elex and I have been trying to do every night, and we're trying to do again now.
Yeah, I mean, and not to make this a giant self-promotion thing, but I mean that is kind of the goal of what we're trying to do, and what you do here, and I think what we're trying to do in our newscast is, like, it's worth investing a little bit of time to try to understand this a little more than just reading one tweet and screaming.
Right, on either side, and saying you're a murderer, you're a freedom fighter. No, it's a little more complicated, everybody. And my thing, and this is what you've heard me kind of getting emotional about last couple of nights, Elex, is where I started from back. I started my rants on this whole thing back in like February. I was on a show called Daily Blast Live in Denver, and I saw the excesses coming on both sides, and I was concerned about the headlines, which I'm concerned about now. You heard me last couple nights, and I was just saying, please shut up. Please shut up. If you don't shut up with these headlines, it's gonna cause some kind of reaction that's not gonna be good. And here we are. So I don't think the government had really any choices. And I signed up with Newsom in his worst case scenario. I thought, man, if I were in his shoes, to prepare for the worst case scenario is not the worst thing. But I'm a little critical now of not then, okay, you did it, man. Now let's unravel this thing as quickly as we can and see if we can contain it, which maybe that's in his head. Do you have any sense that that's where his head is at?
Well, I mean, look, as a reporter, I try not to get into anybody's head, but let's base it on his actions. I mean, his actions point to that. I mean, every day at this point, he is loosening restrictions. Today, he announced that 5 or 6 more counties had met the threshold to enter beyond the phase 2 thing. I mean, what's complicated about being the governor of California is you've got 58 counties and 40 million people.
Oh my God!
And the situation in Los
really,
Angeles County,
like 3 different states.
It's totally different. Like I interviewed Jerry Brown, as we said yesterday.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown lives in Colusa County, which is one of the most rural parts of the state. There have been 3 cases of COVID-19 in Colusa County and 0 deaths. So how is their situation the same as what Barbara Ferrer in LA County is dealing with?
Right.
It's like a totally different planet. So to impose rules that work for Colusa County are not the same as LA County. So today, the rules for Colusa County were lessened, and they were able to open up more because their situation is different, and it doesn't make sense to have uniform rules. And I think the more that he goes on with this, the more that you are starting to see these regional differences based off of the different situations where they are.
Yeah, I think he's got his head kind of in the right place. I'm more concerned about our local city officials than I am about the state, because we keep hearing vague. I can't tell what the mayor of Los Angeles has got in mind for us. He's coming from love, Alex. It's just an act of love. That's all I know. Everything he does is from love. So, okay, great. Now, let me out. Here's something I'd like your opinion about. This is also from the thread. You might see this here. And Rude 310, I think you were. Thank you for thanking us. We appreciate that. Senor Nasuno, government lied to us about face masks. They don't just want us buying them up before the heroes had enough. Well, that's a factual statement. I think both are true. Yep. I think that the government told a white lie to keep enough personal protective gear going towards the front line. But what I found problematic, and you tell me, Alex, if I'm overreacting to this, Governor Cuomo actually outlawed the wearing of masks specifically on trains and subways, where having done that may have really cost lives, or at least made people sick. And that's okay. That's okay in the sense that he had a Sophie's Choice on his hands, and he went one way. I mean, I understand these are like impossible decisions they're trying to make, but I don't know. Should he address that ever, or just let that fade into the background? What do you think? And there was, by the way, federal government was lying about the masks too. There were many people that lied. The Surgeon General lied to us about the masks. I think it was conscious. Maybe he just didn't know, but I think that was a lie. And I understand why they did it. It was a motivated lie. So, what do you think?
Yeah, and I feel bad about the fact that even on our show, when people were writing in and asking questions about the masks, we sort of downplayed the mask thing because that's what all of the top health officials in the government were telling us based off of their research.
Yes, absolutely. But if you remember 2 things, what we said, we actually qualified it as we want to save those masks for the front line. Right. I could tell that was the issue.
Right.
And number 2, we had everybody on shutdown at the time. The mask thing, there were people still moving around New York and on trains, and so interesting. It just was look. And you heard me use this term a lot. It was a fog of war, and I get it. It was a fog of war for everybody from about November on. And anybody that wait, hang on, I got to address something. Mercury.
I thought maybe
intentionally blew HIV out of proportion. We said 10 million deaths are coming. This was our rhetoric back in 1983. We blew it out of proportion, said out of proportion to the end result, not out of proportion to the seriousness of the situation. I was telling 2 to 5 people a day they were going to be dead in 6 months. So don't talk to me about HIV. That's disgusting. I'm tired of it. I helped those patients for years, worked very hard in that world, and went out on the radio and blew it out of proportion relative to where we ended up with 175,000 deaths. I said there were going to be 10 million. That's blowing it out of proportion. And I felt justified in doing that. So check your facts. God, people make me crazy these days. Anyway, so you were starting to say something.
Should we answer another?
Don't worry, I won't cut him off, Elex.
Question from Bones Revo, who's saying, "What do I feel about fear-mongering headlines?" Which is something we talked about a little bit.
Susan, the phone is off the hook here.
I think it's a huge problem for our industry, and some of it I think is the responsibility of reporters, and some of it is the responsibility of readers, and frankly, who reward that. It's a tough position to be in when your business model is based off of how many clicks you get, and those get more clicks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's challenging. I always thought about that. Like, if everybody watched PBS, the like super long form, super straight, like non-conflict type of TV, all the news would do their news like that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, and that's the challenge of, having a free press that is driven by a business model, that gets rewarded. I mean, you try to keep the news and reporters sort of separate from that process, but it is complicated.
Well,
but I think we all could do a better job on the headlines? Of course.
I've never seen your news outlet. I've cringed a couple times on some of the things that's been on the prompter, and I've straightened it out. Because you allow me to be there to do that. A couple nights ago, we had said some stuff about dangerous inflammatory disease, and I had to reiterate what Dr. Oz said, which is not a big deal, common outcome of viral illness, and there was a lot of craziness going on, but it was not really excessive compared to what you had read that night. I thought to myself, as you're reading, I thought, well, I'm going to straighten that out, but it's nothing compared to the print. The print is ridiculous. It's really, truly ridiculous. And I really don't, unless it's even like CNN's print is not the same as CNN's headlines when they go to breaking news. Even their lower third, which is sometimes silly, never as bad as what they put in print. And I think that's kind of irresponsible.
But by print, you mean mostly like online.
Yeah,
headlines, right?
and it's something I can read, read. Yeah, what I'm reading.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that people can do to sort of make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen is subscribe to newspapers that do it right. The newspaper industry is in a economic freefall right now.
Oh, I think now this is really bad, right?
That is getting so they're all so desperate to do something to get some sort of attention, to keep their jobs somehow going, that there's like this incentive to put up clickbait because they need to drive their traffic because they're so desperate to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
So if there are sites that you think are doing it right, if you think the New York Times is doing it right, or Washington Post or LA Times, or you have a local paper in your community that focuses on hyper-local stuff, like subscribe to them, help them out. Because that's what's going to keep them employed, because we're in a situation where we could see a bunch of newspaper sites closing because they just are running out of money. And the advertisers are going to be going away for a lot of this stuff. I mean, like, we're in a situation with our station where we have our ratings are up because of all this, but the advertisers will be down because the economy is doing so bad, and the people don't want to spend money on advertising. So then that could mean layoffs for the staff. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. Thankfully, Fox has been great. They've been great to everybody. They've given us extra pay. They've paid for healthcare costs. They've really been fantastic. Yep. But I hope that can continue. But there's the fear for all corporate America that it doesn't.
Hey, M-Y-R-R-H, Mercury. You said I communicate my way and you communicate in yours, and that was to Sarah, and I totally defend your privilege and right to do that. I would never want to silence you. I think silencing is exactly the wrong move, but I may react to what you say. So prepare yourself, which is what happened. But I absolutely defend your right to speak your truth, whatever that might be. And that's true to all of you. I was listening to it's funny, it got me a little bit today. I was listening to a podcast about postmodernism, and I thought, oh my God, we have to restore discourse. It's just this idea of silencing and there being no truth. It's so contrary to science and to what
or not being able to call out bad headlines.
Well, that's a kind of a different thing in a weird way, but I think Alex is right. This is kind of the death throes of print. But if it were just the newspaper, that would be one thing. But it's CNN and other outlets that have robust internet traffic that I see the stuff there, and I just think it's irresponsible. It's just not what's in the story. Susan, you read something yesterday about Fauci, remember?
Yeah. Well, also, we asked our callers to send us emails, and this one came in particularly.
Just
It
now?
was, it's a regular follower, and she said, this is scary. And it's like coronavirus, 15 U.S. states investigating cases of children suffering from rare inflammatory syndrome, Cuomo says.
Right.
And that was a UK paper, but also
Was it Daily Mail?
CNN, no, The Independent. And then CNN had the same thing, but they also wrote in their article that understanding the child's immune response could be a key to vaccine development and could also be a key to therapy for adults to understand why children are able to fight COVID-19 off so well. That was on the bottom of the article, but
Right.
But
so the headline should be.
But the headline was, expect more cases of strange coronavirus syndrome in kids, doctors warn.
Yes.
So it's like, come on, I know that's a way to sell papers, but it drives me crazy.
It does such a disservice to journalism at a moment where journalism is in peril. I mean, I was really upset the other day with what the LA Times, that headline that came out that had everybody freaking out. And I did something which I've never done before, which is I actually called out some of my colleagues online, I won't say who were blowing that up. And, there's going to be riots in the streets and how dare they? And I knew within seconds exactly what they meant because we've been doing this show and because we've had Barbara Ferrer on, we've had Catherine Barger on, we've had Eric Garcetti. I talk to him every night. I've been on with the governor. Like I kind of know where their thinking is. So that didn't make any sense to me. So as a reporter, if you're doing it right and you're trained right, you should know gut wise, does that make sense? Does that follow in line with anything else that's been happening?
Right.
Does that fall in line with anything else that I've been trained to do? Or is this outline? If it is that weird, maybe you do make a second call, or you say, let's look into this further. I don't know about that. Now, part of the problem, as I said on the air last night, the way that LA County handled that was terrible, because for 5 hours, Barbara Ferrer didn't put anything out after that.
Right. They went into some sort of
She's
weird.
really good at that.
Her spokesperson said, we're going to put out a statement soon. It took 5 hours for them to put out a statement. I could have written a statement in a second.
Yeah.
The statement is that comment was taken out of context. Yes, we will have some sort of restrictions, but they will continue to ease as health conditions warrant, and we're not under lockdown.
It was 6 p.m., Alex.
Right?
It was 6 p.m.
Yeah,
they were all at home getting ready for dinner. You were still working. I was still working. I mean, she always makes comments, and she's never really clear about the whole situation. They're afraid.
Hold on a second. Gail, no,
crazy. Sorry.
Fox News is not always right. And in fact, I hold both sides accountable. I'm sick of both sides. My thing is I'm super moderate, and so I see the excesses on both sides, and they both drive me insane. So that's that.
And then I drive him insane.
And that's where, and that's where I do think that there's a lot of value in local news, frankly, more than some of what the cable news are doing, because I think by and large, and not always this case, but local news is a little bit more driven by information.
Yep.
And I think cable news is a little bit more driven by conflict.
Yep.
By the nature of sort of what it is and the way that it's set up, especially in a real crisis situation. I think local news really does lead with pertinent information to the community. Sometimes when there isn't as much, and then they get sort of over dramatic with car crashes and all that other stuff. But I think right now, our station and all of the stations have done a pretty good job of trying to lead with information.
Two things. Sorry, but there's nothing better than a good police chase, Alex. I'm sorry, but we're going to tune into that one either way.
Well, and didn't it made me feel good in a weird, perverse way. We had a police chase 2 nights ago at 10 o'clock. It was the first time we had a police chase on at 10 o'clock since the pandemic. and people were so excited to see it.
I actually was watching it online because I hadn't seen one in so long, and it seemed like an uneventful one, but I don't know. But in any event,
it made people feel like there was more, like a sense of normalcy was returning.
That's
like
funny.
People were getting back on the road. But there actually might be and we're actually doing a segment on this on our 5 o'clock news today, a psychological aspect to it, that people are going so stir crazy that we may start seeing more of these pursuits because people feel so anxious and angry and they're lashing out in different ways.
That's an interesting theory. But I see methamphetamine in about 90% of those things, and meth supply and distribution is way down. So I would argue that that's the main reason you're not seeing so much of that. So that's a lot of the meth users have switched to alcohol, and so alcohol is way up, and weed is way up, and weed does not make you want to go out and chase down the police. And alcohol, they kind of pick that up early. You know what I mean? They kind of they see how you're driving before you're running off. And by the way, part of the deal with meth is it makes you want to run. It makes you paranoid. You don't know what's going on. The way one of my patients described it, it says it's like trying to go through life with a strobe light going off. You're constantly agitated, irritable, confused, paranoid, and not knowing what's going on. And so interesting, very interesting stuff.
And of course, alcohol sales and marijuana sales were both deemed essential.
Oh,
so
I know.
Had to shut down their retail businesses that they've been working on for 30 years. The weed dispensary is able to keep going. So
interestingly, a corollary in that story, I spoke to somebody who lives in Venice Beach last night, and he said the homeless some of them become more willing to go inside, no drugs, and the rest have become more irritable and confrontative. And I said, oh, that's alcohol. That's how people get when they're drinking. They get belligerent and by the way, they may be in withdrawal from the other drugs. That makes them irritable and agitated. Then the alcohol makes them kind of inflated and somewhat fearless and puffed up. And he said that is absolutely what's happening. There's alcohol bottles everywhere around the homeless encampments now, which is really interesting. Really, really interesting. So here we are, yet to solve that problem. But
I had a tweet that somebody sent me yesterday. She mentioned she saw this and she knew after listening to your show that it probably wasn't true, but it was, if you've gotten flu shots during the past 10 years, you will test positive for the Wuhan strain of the COVID-19 flu. Dr. Rashid Buttar. Yeah, don't mean to call the guy out, but had to.
That is just about as false as you can possibly be. Tell that to all my patients whom I test regularly, and they all get flu vaccines. All my patients get flu vaccines, and they have not tested positive for the antibody. And the handful of COVID cases I did see were sick, and some died, and that was COVID positive, also flu vaccine positive. And I have plenty of others that I gave the flu vaccine to with flu-like illnesses that did not have COVID.
And you took the test too, and you've had a flu shot for the last 10 years.
That was the antibody test. I think he was making the case for the viral test.
Oh, okay.
But yes, both are unaffected by the flu vaccine.
But it's untrue.
To any significant degree. So isn't that interesting?
Just so you know. Oh, and I have some bad news, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
So our friend that we thought gave us COVID-19 over Christmas.
He's negative?
Tested negative.
Okay.
So I don't need to go get a test.
All right, good.
I'm so disappointed.
Susan is convinced she had it. But lately she's been very focused on whether or not antibodies confer immunity, which Dr. Fauci has been unwilling to put down his bet on. I'm saying, as a practitioner with lots of experience, that the probability is if you have antibodies, you have about a year of immunity. We just can't prove it yet.
Yeah, it was the last paragraph of a huge article, too. Alex, drives me crazy because they put the good stuff at the bottom.
Senor Nasuno.
Right. Yeah, no, you talked about that yesterday on the show, right? That I think but that is a key question right now that so many people are interested in, and we see that question coming in every day, Dr. Drew.
Yeah. About
the antibody and whether that sort of gives you the green light, like they would say in China or something else.
Yeah.
I guess how would you know? What's the process for people that like me that don't know sort of how that works?
Right. So
is there a testing process for
no,
that now, or how are they going to figure that out?
they're gonna look at people that have been infected and follow them and study them and see if they have another outbreak.
See if they get it again.
Yeah, and if 0 people get it again over the course of a year, it's pretty good evidence that you're
Yeah,
immune.
but what if you have a shitty immune system? Like I have a
Doesn't
great
really work-
immune system.
doesn't really
I
work
wouldn't
like
get
that.
it twice. You would. You would probably get it twice.
Thank
Or
you.
somebody with cancer might get it twice.
It
But
doesn't really work like that. But I would tell you that there is a second test you can do that is that doctors are doing on themselves as a way of reassuring themselves that they can go into the front lines after they've had it. They're doing something called virus neutralizing antibodies. So they're taking their own antibodies and testing them against other coronaviruses and seeing in the lab if it neutralizes the coronavirus. It's an expensive test. It's a time-consuming test, not something we can scale up, but that is something people could do as further evidence of immunity. Pretty good evidence.
I mean, is there anybody that like tries to give themselves coronavirus a second time or anything like that to check it out? Does that happen? Does that happen in guinea pigs? Does that happen anywhere?
That's called Koch's postulates, and it's considered unethical to do that. However, I did hear that there is something going on somewhere. I'm guessing it's in another country where young people are signing up to be given the virus in some fashion. I don't know what this is. I only heard a rumor about it, so I'm looking for that if anybody knows anything about that. So you're not going to find that in this country unless somebody does it on their own. It would never pass human subject analysis. But in other countries, they might have that.
somebody mentioned that I can still give blood.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, Alex. I want to get a blood drive going or something. I really there's all this emphasis on food, and look, if the number one risk factor for dying of this thing is obesity, so all this focus on food, I'm not sure is warranted. But blood products, man, I am telling you, blood products, I see a shortage coming, and they save lives. Plus, if you have had the illness. Yeah. You can do plasmapheresis and give your antibodies to a sick person. You just got to do it. And so let's not be fearful of exposing ourselves. But go ahead, Alex.
And this was one of the questions that came up early on in our process. But now that we've spun through this a little bit more, can they also test for coronavirus when you give blood?
I asked that question of a medical director from Red Cross yesterday, and she said they're ramping up not only a test for corona, but a test for the antibody, mostly to motivate people to come in. Like, hey, you want an antibody test? Come in. We'll give it to you. Yeah. So they have something like that.
That would be a great incentive, right?
Yeah. So they have something like that in the works, she was telling me, but she was unable to give me any details. And the other thing was, I was sort of curious why they weren't testing for the virus. And she said, we don't have to because it's not a blood-borne illness. It's a respiratory virus only through respiratory secretions, which I thought was interesting.
Like, I think it would be much more, the test itself sounds kind of terrible. Swab up your nose and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I almost would be more willing to go do it if I could go give blood, know that this blood could save somebody's life, know that I'm helping people in the process, and as a byproduct, I'm basically getting my test as well. I think that seems like a win-win for a lot of people.
I agree, and they seem to have heard that somewhere. I brought it up yesterday to one of the administrators, and she said, stand by. But somebody says here, King, is that your name? King, I can't quite see, King Chick or something. Tried to sign up to give blood via Red Cross, no openings until June 22nd. Where are you doing that, King?
Oh, wow.
And I consider that great. That's good news for your local area. Yes, O negative is always sought after.
I think that's what I have.
Yes, I think you do.
Also,
yeah, I don't think that's the case in Southern California.
Yeah, we need more.
Yeah,
there's no appointment.
Right. Cindy K, CLL, chronic lymphocytic leukemia, is an immunological disorder. So yeah, you should be very, very careful.
So I saw an article that said that they're going to have a spit test that you can do like from home and send in.
Yes, that's coming. That's coming.
Oh.
That's coming, and a lot of things are coming.
It's not fake news.
I don't know. No, that's not fake news. And what Alex and I were talking about last night is you never knew what's going to really bear fruit. These are things that have to go through a lot of technical procedures and evaluations before they become something that humans can use on a regular basis. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if King's telling me Sacramento. King is in Sacramento. Well, good for Sacramento, man. That is good news. I don't think we have anything like that going on here in Southern California. Elex, I'm going to let you go. I've used up enough of your time. I will see you in a few hours.
Oh, wait, you don't want him to be a part of Guess That Diagnosis?
No, he doesn't need to be a part of that. We're giving away T-shirts, and I want to let Alex. Alex is busy enough. I've just taken 45 minutes of his time.
Alex, you shouldn't prolapse your anus T-shirt. Come on.
Alex, do you watch your mom's house? I don't know if it's one of my nefarious projects.
I'll let you have one for free, and I'll send you some Hydrolite too. Drew can bring it in.
All right, for coming in today.
Thank you very
much.
Or
a Dr. Drew after dark.
Thank you to Andrew, who said that I had the best hair on TV. That's very kind of you.
Do.
I think
Dr. Drew has pretty great hair.
I think Mrs. Pinsky is going to cut my hair. I think there's a haircut in my future.
You should see my hair. That's why you never see me on film. Oh my God!
Just to wrap up, Dr. Drew, it's a great honor and privilege to be on with you every night. I think it's been a real service for our viewers, not only here but around the world, watching on Facebook. And Sue, thank you for everything that you have done to make all this possible. And it's great to have you as part of our team.
Well, I thank you for that, and I want you to know I've seen how you navigate. It's been a master class in the middle of all this on how to ask great questions and how to do your job as a journalist. And so I've been nothing but impressed. And I as you know, I gushed about it last night because we were interviewing Jerry Brown. Everybody, watch it tonight on. The issue is you need to watch it at 10:30 Pacific.
Friday night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Today's Thursday. Friday night
in LA, but that show actually airs all over the state of California in all different times. So people can go to theissueisshow.com to find the air times near them.
Yeah, it's an incredible interview. And I didn't have anything to add because you asked all the questions that I had and Jerry Brown answered them, sometimes uncomfortably, as a matter of fact. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, all right, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much.
See you tonight.
Right, we'll see you tonight.
God bless you.
All right, so it's T-shirt time, everybody. This is we need to call this the Susan Pinsky project. This is her T-shirt project. Here is an example of T-shirt that's on Answer.
Yeah, okay.
This is sold out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch all packed up and ready to go. Hold on a second. Let me get the banner. I was going to get some cool banners that had the, mystery diagnosis question and the what's that medication question. But anyways, the you can go to merchmethod.com/Tom Segura and put in Dr. Drew to get the Dr. Drew After Dark men's black t-shirt, but we're sold out on the Heather charcoal t-shirt that says you shouldn't prolapse your anus. And
why that one is so popular?
It is a big favorite. So I just happen to have some here from our live show that we did in New York at Caroline's, and they've been sitting here, and I've been thinking, well, maybe we should have a little game, and people can win the T-shirt. So if you want a large or extra large Dr. Drew Heather charcoal T-shirt that says you shouldn't prolapse your anus, I love saying that. Maybe answer away, and you can get a free shirt.
Two things. Andrew Alkashvili, I almost get your name right. I'm still ruminating on that CCR5 stuff. I am looking for data. As a result of that stuff you sent me, I have fallen into a whole world of new immune technologies where people are really trying to figure out what it is about this virus that is killing people, frankly. And that particular issue that you and I were talking about, the CCR5 pathway, may be part of it, but how it's activated and how the dendritic cells present it to the lymphocytes, it's a whole landscape that I've been exposed to of technologies, and biotech is on it. Whether or not they'll be able to come to market with stuff that really makes that big a difference, I don't know. Also, Skullcracker, no guarantee the vaccines will work. Dr. Leading One said 80% at least that it even works. I think you mean Dr. Fauci? 80% probability that you get really what you're looking for. Yes, they are not 100%, but they're enough to invoke herd immunity. That's the thing. Okay, so let me ask a question about a disease. It's a syndrome, and it's called a syndrome and a disease. Susan, you're gonna have to pick the winner on this because I need
I
to.
am.
Yeah. So can you watch the?
Hold on.
Are you ready? Watch the stream.
My ADD setting in.
Okay, but just watch the stream. You tell me when I give the clues.
Okay.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
This has been in the news somewhat lately. It's a classic complication of viral illnesses in children. It's a vasculitis that affects medium-sized vessels characterized by hypercytokinemia, much like the cytokine storm, kind of the opposite of the cytokine storm that adults get into. You got it?
I don't know.
It presents with lymph node enlargement. It's in children. It's mucosal inflammation, rash, adenopathy of the nodes in the neck, hand and foot swelling sometimes, desquamation, the hands sort of peel, sort of classically. It's unusual, and it's been ticking up a little bit lately because of the massive viral Wait, Susan, everybody got it. There's
I know, but
who got it first?
Yeah, I know who got it first, but there's a formal name for it.
They got it.
I'm looking at the formal name.
No.
I got it. Okay, Chris got it.
Chris Douglas got it.
He was fast, and I have a definite little sign here.
And Joan and Vicky, good on you, because it does look a lot like toxic shock syndrome, but it's in children. And it's an immune activation that happens after a viral illness. It's once the child is feeling better, then they get this weird syndrome.
Yeah, like a week or so later.
It can have complications, but it's actually quite readily treated. So you go to the doctor when you get that rash right away, or the red tongue, that sort of thing. So these are kind of easy ones today. I thought I would give you guys, and you guys all got it. So
okay, Chris needs to email me at drdrew.com/contact. Tell me what size you want and what flavor hydrolyte you want in your package, and I'll send that out to you today. Also, kids and this illness is a scary thing. So if you do read a lot of news stories and headlines that scare the crap out of you because you're a mother, just try to be careful, and also
read the whole article. And usually the reality is down towards the bottom of the article.
And also we need to look at this because one day something bad's going to happen and we're not going to believe it. So we have to really analyze what we're reading and not.
Yes.
And because we're going to give up, we're going to be immune to it. It's like when people were getting shot in movie theaters over and over again. At a certain point, we're like, oh yeah, there's another shooting. We need to be on top of this and stay careful, because by the end of the year, things could happen again and they could be worse, So I just don't want to be immune to this.
Good.
I'm starting to become that, but
I think that's an important statement. Okay, this next is the medication. You're going to name that medication. Susan, you ready to watch?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The word you gave me was not Kawasaki's. I knew it was Kawasaki's, but you gave me sister.
No, I said I'm not going to do that one.
Oh, okay.
We're going to do Kawasaki's.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah, I had a different one. And maybe we'll do that one tomorrow now that you've given it away. So what? So
sister S-I.
No.
It's your sister.
Well, now I can't use it.
It's your sister.
This medication impairs viral replication by interfering with the pH-dependent endosome-mediated viral entry of enveloped viruses. It can inhibit pre-entry as well. It can interfere with post-translational modification of viral proteins. These modifications involve proteases and glycosyl transferases that occur within the endoplasmic reticulum. So it interferes with the putting together of the virus. Anybody got it so far? It's not remdesivir. That is a good guess, but it is not remdesivir.
There it is. I see it.
Okay.
Bones Revo.
Yep, Bones got it. So that is actually, there's many different antiviral properties and modulating properties of this medication. It affects the maturation process. It can act on the immune system through cell signaling and pro-inflammatory cytokines. It is hydroxychloroquine. It's been used for a while for inflammatory disorders. I've used it hundreds of times. It's very safe. I don't know why. I talked to a rheumatologist, Dr. Oz, rheumatologist, had 1,000 patient years, had never seen one side effect. Doctors are using it like crazy. We think we're doing something with it, but recently got some direction from the American College of Physicians when they're saying you will do harm if you use this. And okay, so until the data's in, we all stand by. Hopefully no people are harmed by not using this, which according to the French researchers, we will be harming people. But there you go. So that was the easy one, hydroxychloroquine. So it's Kawasaki syndrome and hydroxychloroquine, things that are in the news very much today. But some of those viral mechanisms people are not aware
It's
of.
interesting though, because like when Douglas got typhus,
Which is a lot like Kawasaki.
I wasn't paying attention. I was a mother of 3 and he was in the bedroom, and then your dad was a doctor, and he came in and he was like, something's up with Douglas. And I'm like, he's probably fine. He had a rash or whatever. And he pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh my God. And he had this huge fever and he got super sick, and your dad was always here for me. I was super lucky, but some people just aren't aware that their kid has a horrible rash, and it's really as serious as it is.
Any rashes should be checked out.
Yeah.
Rashes should be checked out. Because when you get a fever and a rash, it kind of puts it all in a different category. A little more common in kids than adults, but in adults, a fever and a rash is very meaningful. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. Fever and a rash, check into it.
Yeah.
So let me give you the last few minutes here, a little COVID-19 update. Georgia is still doing amazing. They don't have that many cases, so in a way they sort of probably were a little bit, felt like they could contain things pretty readily, and they were right. In California, the death rates are plateauing. Even the estimated cases are descending. But the problem with California is we have so many damn people. We're still around 2,000 confirmed cases and about 8,000, I think about 4 or 5 times that, of estimated infections out there. And how many of those are asymptomatic, we don't know. So that's where California gets a little bit conservative. In other words, how do we track all these thousands of cases? In Georgia, way lower population, way lower cases. I believe Governor Newsom is onto this in terms of having those, what he calls COVID detectives, I think he's calling them, to go out and track it down, which is really what we're going to have to do. The overall country is declining over the next 6 weeks or so. The question is, that rate of decline sufficient, and will it be sustained? The number of deaths is still, around 130, 150,000. And again, how those COVID cases are being documented is something that people are beginning to talk about. I don't have a strong opinion about that, but I've heard stories of people being muscled into calling something COVID that is not, but I've had no direct experience with that myself.
Oh, wait, wasn't there a doctor we were going to interview about that?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yes. And again, we are making progress, and hopefully as we open up, we will all act like adults and do our job in terms of social distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, because for sure, if we don't, there will be trouble. I mean, there just will be. But I believe that people are up for that challenge of proper social distancing. And as I was talking to Elex about earlier, we, much like when I was overestimating the HIV impact, we overestimated the impact of this virus in California particularly, and we were anticipating a worst-case scenario. It wasn't so much in New York, they weren't so far off, frankly, but there was, New York, I've got a picture of the front page of the Post saying 750,000 hospitalized patients. Nope, did not get there. So, they were off, but that was only up by a factor of 3 or so. It was not a factor of 20 like it was in California. So my challenge to everybody is, isn't there an intermediate path? Isn't there a balanced path where we can take both, the economic well-being of our citizens and the health well-being of the citizens and sort of navigate a path that is sensible, that doesn't overshoot or undershoot? That's what medicine is always about, is judgment and making the right call and navigating through things. It's always that way. And that's why when this all started, I kept asking, is a physician making these decisions or just a public health person? Because physicians are used to making tough decisions where they're always evaluating a risk-reward analysis on, destroying something versus saving a life. So
Joshua's in a snarky mood today.
Mask wearing in gyms.
My son got think he got the typhus from fleas at the ice rink.
Yeah, that's what he thought too. George, mask wearing in gym should be fine. On a treadmill is going to be a little bit of an issue. But in terms of just weightlifting, I think it should be fine. Running probably should be done out of doors if you can possibly do it. Would I use hydroxychloroquine? Not only would I have repeatedly and to good effect, in my opinion, to good effect. So, do with that what you will. And
I think it's dependent on-
many of my peers believe they've been using it to good effect too.
Each patient is different, right, Drew? You need to explain that. Not
Each
everybody
yeah.
would benefit from it.
No. Some people need no treatment. Patients that I had put on hydroxychloroquine when they were hospitalized, the doctors that picked them up immediately put them on it without knowing that they had been on it previously by me. So we had to sort of get that communicated across to those doctors. But that's how universally, or at least that's how much enthusiasm and confidence there is in that treatment, at least out here in Southern California.
Thank you, Joshua. I know Joshua from way back, so I get his humor.
Okay. Yes, Linda had H1N1. So did I. Does not affect your susceptibility to COVID. And H1N1, if you were a middle-aged person, 40 to 60, that was more likely to be the age group that died of H1N1. And let's remind ourselves again, as we come up to about, I think we're at 300,000 cases, 300,000 deaths worldwide from COVID-19. There were 500,000 deaths from H1N1. 500,000.
In a year?
Yeah. So we may end up worse with this one, but we still are not quite as bad as H1N1. And you all didn't even know that one happened. That was 2009. That was a pandemic. And we made it through that one okay without shutting everything down. So again, there may be an intermediate path. So let's wrap this thing up. Is there anything else, Susan, I had forgotten to talk about?
You might want to talk about this week's Dr. Drew After Dark, number 66, double digits.
What is that one?
It is.
Is that Christina and me?
It's called Nasty as Hell with Christina P.
So, okay.
So you can imagine.
Yeah,
I wonder if I should play the little videos from the little clips from that show on here. I was thinking about that.
It's not a bad idea.
I can't hear it though because I haven't. This app is so weird. I can't hear it from my end. So we just have. I'd have to read the.
Is Norman in that?
I don't know. That was well, probably. Did you do another one with Norman?
We did. Norman is a constant source of preoccupation and conversation. So, I am looking at a JAMA article, Assessment of Deaths from COVID-19 and from Seasonal Flu. There's a brand new article just out. Is this comparing flu and COVID deaths? I can't quite see what they're getting. In summary, analysis, the comparison between SARS mortality and seasonal influenza mortality must be made using apples-to-apples comparison. Doing so better demonstrates the true threat of COVID-19. So I'm not quite sure what they're saying in this article. They're just, I think, looking at just all the data that's out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's wrap this thing up. We will be in again
Thanks, everyone.
tomorrow. We appreciate you stopping by.
I really like talking to Elex.
It was great. He was great. I appreciate him coming by. And
I think he's a good reporter. I wonder if he would want to run for governor.
I bet he would. He's fascinated by politics. He likes that stuff.
So if Governor Newsom's taking a 10% pay cut, how much is that percentage? It's like $20,000, right?
I have no idea.
Because I think the governor of California can only make like $200,000 a year or something, which is a lot of money. But still, everybody will have to take a pay cut. But I just wondered.
Well, I thought that I just liked the seriousness with which he's approaching his budget, and that is good news. And I bet you people will meet him halfway from the federal government just out of his sincerity and trying to make things work. I think that will play well for him. I really do.
Can you also mention True Niagen, our sponsor? Yeah,
True Niagen is a product that enhances NAD metabolism. If any of you are alcoholics or even drug addicts, you may have heard of NAD infusions. It's something that's sort of a novel approach to withdrawal. I've never really used it myself, but I have lots of peers that do. And nicotinamide riboside is a oral way of doing it. And it's a lot of good biochemistry that shows it might reduce cell aging or cell senescence. And so I became convinced of that about a year and a half ago and been taking it ever since. Now there's some evidence that it might actually help with the COVID outbreak too. We did an interview here with a biologist about that. That requires a little higher dosing, but it's, I think, an excellent product myself. And again, we as scientists.
You take it every day.
I take it every day. And we as scientists can debate that.
You're making me take it too.
Yes, I made Susan take it too, because I really do think there's something.
I know you've been taking it for a long time before they were a sponsor. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you set that up, but I don't know who set it up. But.
Well, I'd heard about this and I investigated and was impressed. The actually primary research was pretty amazing.
And we had an interview with the doctors from there.
Some of them, yes, yeah. But True Niagen, again, is I am a patient under that, and I don't plan to stop. I really do think.
How long have you been taking it?
About a year, maybe 2 years.
Wow.
And
well,
whenever
great,
people
honey.
tell me that I look younger than my age, I always think to myself, I wonder
Look
if
better
that,
than me these days.
I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Can I get something to grow my eyelashes back?
You just cut my hair. We cut my hair, and we will be
Your hair looks
better off.
fine.
See, that's how she gets out of it. Haircut is coming. But yeah, if anyone wants to debate that science, I mean, that's a good, interesting science. Look at that data. If you want to debate it, I'm all for it. Do your due diligence.
Right.
Oral hydration products are now a thing. You can really get to the point where you're doing about the same as an IV with Hydrolyte. There's, I'm a big fan. It's what I wanted to develop, and then these guys came along, and so that's why I got behind it.
I don't think Elex has had his hair cut once since he's been on the air.
He is not. That's why
But it
I
just
take
sort of
grief for
slicks
it.
back so well. He still looks good.
They cleaned him up around the ear apparently, because he immediately got grief about it. What is that? We have mask and haircut police in this country.
I know, what the hell?
What is that? Okay.
I mean, we're not sick. If you're not sick and you can get it done, geez.
Right.
I mean, people can't open their salons. They just don't want large groups of people going through. I don't know why. That's just so silly. I know our people are ready. My poor nail person probably lost their business.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, her rent's like $4,000 a month, and she probably brings in, she's a one-man show there.
Susan, we're going to have to continue this conversation in person and not across the airways here.
I know
because
you
I've
have
got
stuff to do.
Yeah.
I'm just getting in the groove. I haven't eaten today. I've been fasting all day, so I'm kind of
nice.
Yeah, I know.
That's good for
Okay,
you.
and so, anyways, thanks again, everybody.
And we'll be around 1:30, 2 o'clock tomorrow, I believe. Look for us in the afternoon tomorrow. Tomorrow's a little bit in flux, so I'd say around 1:30. That'd be my guess.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
All right.
Are you one of the millions with a health condition that requires you to use needles? If so, please listen. Disposing of your needles properly is a big responsibility. Accidental needle sticks in the home can injure family members, children, and even your pets. I am Dr. Drew Pinsky, and I have an easy solution for the safe disposal of needles and the end to accidental needle stick injuries. You may have heard about Sand Mini. The Sand Mini is the affordable, foolproof way to dispose of needles. It's FDA approved, and with Sand Mini, it is easy. Just insert the needle, press the button, and in seconds, the needle is incinerated. Now you have a needle that is completely safe to discard. No sharp points, no bacteria, germs, or pathogens. Make sure your home and business is sand safe. Every needle, every time. Go online right now and use our special promo code DREW2020 for our best offer ever on the Sand Mini. That's nomoresharps.com, and remember, use my promo code DREW2020 for our special offer.